metaphorically speaking, if we could give judgment a metaphor here, and the metaphor would be judgment is the hypothalamus, and attachment is the pituitary gland. And if the hypothalamus isn't communicating with the pituitary gland, then basically, physically or emotionally, there's no reason for the pineal gland to actually receive light. Does that make sense? If you understand, neurologists here, you understand that the hypothalamus has a particular function with fight, flight, or freeze responses. Its synapse is typically based upon negative survival thoughts. So when you have a thought that this is wrong or this is right, your pituitary will then respond in that way. The adrenal system will then respond in that way based upon the hormones that are secreted from them. And the pituitary operates in a unique way with the adrenal system. And if the hypothalamus causes the brain and amygdala to work in this way, then basically you have all sorts of problems. The primary problem for both males and females and non-gender beings on this planet is that our hormones are going mad. Why? Because you're saying this is the way and that isn't, which, by the way, confuses everything. So I even find this, physiological conditioning in animals when I observe them. So I'm getting a little bit sciencey here, but that's just how I am. I love science. You would think that I wouldn't be in the field that I teach in, but I do really follow it. And what I've observed about the hypothalamus is if we don't find some way to correct the fight, flight, or freeze response, then the pituitary is not going to actually work with the adrenal system nor the rest of the body. And that's going to be the primary cause of issues in all systems, because the adrenals affect so much in awakening beings. And then if we don't get enough signals into the pituitary gland for it to interact properly with the pineal gland, then you know what happens, right? Does anyone know what happens? So yeah, as Dorothy just typed out, yes, we are attached to our fight, flight, freeze responses, which come from what? Programmed, conditioned judgments, which come from what? Educational, religious, parental, and even spiritual, and political conditioning. I could probably keep going because there are subcategories within those types even. So at some point in time, we became overwhelmed with those types of conditions. It began to no longer make sense. And people started to feel as if they didn't belong, as if they were lost, as if they couldn't relate to being human anymore. And this is why a lot of New Age, in particular, spiritual systems and teachings begin to say it's okay to not belong, which was good and still is good for many who are awakening to the fact that they're sensing that they came out of a religion or about a certain educational culture, and which lends to a certain professional culture as well. Then you have culture and familial systems within the way that you're parented, your familial culturing from that. You have all that, and then you just go, for some reason, I'm just not fitting in, not with my family, not with the way I was put into certain spiritual systems or religious systems, or the conditioning is everywhere. So it doesn't stop with spirituality. It has become sneaky, and it has snaked its way like a snake into the grass into spiritual culture as well. So this is not me saying the ancient ways are right in spirituality or the new ways are right. What I'm saying is that there is one middle way that also encapsulates the 4 ways and the 4 particular archetypes of ascension and ways that we ascend and awaken now. Which means that the danger is, number 1, you can judge that there's one way for you. That's great. All right, you can. But if you say this is the way and those other 3 ways are wrong, and all those belief systems within it, if you say this is the way and those other ways get to be like me, and those other beliefs need to be like my way and my beliefs, because if they don't, they're going to harm themselves or others, that is a judgment and an attachment. You judge, which means what? You are doing the same thing. Even though we have 4 ways, you're trying to make your way the one way that everybody in every other system should belong. Do you understand what I'm getting at here? So let me identify the 4 ways that have come about since, say for 20 years we've been working on this now, but it's particularly apparent since 2020. Like we can't even deny it anymore. So since 2020, we've made one of the ways, I don't really have a name for these, because putting names, definitions, and labels is just doing the same thing that we were doing that wasn't working for millions of years. For those of you who follow the raw material, you understand what I'm talking about. How Ra says, and this is a collective group of extraterrestrial beings through a channel who wrote about it, and Ra is from the Ra group is from the Galactic Council of 9, and been talking to them also since age 5. And when they came through this channel, and they wrote 5 books called the Raw Material. In the first book, Ra said to the channel, every 175,000 years I come down and I check, and you're doing the same thing. So one of the ways that's really new right now, the newest way as of 2020 is, how can I describe it without giving it a name and a judgment? It's going to be very hard. We'll call this the warrior way. Warriors are necessary because they are protective. They are, the way of the warrior is fight to do things different. The warrior will also say, if you don't join us, silence is consent. If you are not with us, you are not awake. You are sheeple. You are, I mean, you've heard it. I don't have to tell you all the things that are going around. This is like, the problem with the warrior way is like joining that and understanding that, but letting all other ways also be fine for everybody else. So since 2020, the warrior way has meant something like related to masks and vaccines and whether you do or you don't. Primarily, there's also a large sect of Christians who are coming across and creating a political influence with this, along with their Christianity. I've noticed that new thing in the warrior way since 2020. But there are just as many warriors who don't do that. They're going to be warriors who protect and are on the front lines, and they will literally draw arms if need be, right? Or fight, physically do whatever they have to do to protect the innocent. So this is the positive about the warrior way, is that they are protecting the innocent. Whether you're awakened or not, they kind of don't care, but they want you to wake up. So there's the light side of the warrior way and the shadow side. So what I mean by that is kind of more awakened, balanced people, or people who are just awakening and using their political influences to call that realization. I think they got a name for it these days. They call it woke. Are you woke or not? I'm a Generation X person, and I was born in 1975. So when I hear these terms, I just kind of go, huh. Well, okay, people who are saying they're woke, it feels like they just woke up to something and they want others to be the same. So basically speaking, that's kind of the judgmental side. The attached side is we judge and we want everybody to be the same. And if you're not woke. Insofar as the light side for the awakened warriors on the planet, they're just looking at that going, I'm looking at everything else. However, this is me and this is what I'm going to do for my family and my community. And I'm a fighter. I will draw arms if I have to. And I will do what I need to do to protect the innocent. The innocent, that would be children, women, families, people who are kind of beaten down by society. And it is my role to protect the innocent. And I will do it in whatever way I see fit. I'm not going to judge you if you don't. But this is what I'm going to do. There will be many warriors. But what the warrior side needs to do is come together as one and work together as one. And this is for every archetype of ascension, all the 4 ways. The warriors need to do what the rest of the archetypes need to do as well. Everybody needs to say, this is but one way. That's the important part. Keep you out of trouble and pain and suffering if you don't judge or attach to this way as the one true thing or way. And that includes all of your modalities, all of your practices. I had to learn this too. I had to learn that there are some people who like certain types of spiritual practices and modalities that will cause them to go psychologically insane and then cause them to physically struggle as well. I had to learn that there's not a lot of people that understand what meditation is. There's not a lot of people that understand that prana is life, that breath is life. I don't care if you call it prana. You can't deny to me that if you don't breathe, body gonna die. You can pull a oneness teaching on me if you want. Yeah, I know I am not that, but go ahead, close your mouth, do this. How long can you do this? I can't even teach you like that, right? I can't live like that. It doesn't mean that I believe I'm a body. I believe in the oneness way as well. I'm fully aware that I am not my mind, which is trying to allow these teachings just to come through. I am not the thoughts and beliefs that uphold them. Even everything I'm teaching you is a thought and a belief that you get to decide is helpful or unhelpful to you. And I am not the mind. It is a tool. I am not the body that leaves right now. Spirit's fine, right? However, don't we enjoy the experience? Isn't there a reason why we have these 2 tools, the mind, the body? Right? Therefore, all of the teachings that are coming through and saying, no, you need to kill your ego. You need to kill all judgments. It's going to be particularly different and difficult to allow the ego to die and to still have a creative experience and to allow the spirit to be living while pretending to have a mind and a body. This whole dualistic experience, you will not experience it anymore. You can have the other of the 4 ways, and I don't really know what to call that way, because that way is the way of oneness is what I would call it. And it is right now, there are a lot of human beings experiencing the way of oneness as exclusivity. And oneness is supposed to be inclusive. But oneness has also become a dualistic construct in many of the teachings therefrom. People are misinterpreting A Course in Miracles, Way of Mastery, the Tao. I love the Tao, by the way. Misinterpreting the Lotus teachings, misinterpreting the Lotus Sutra, the Heart Sutra, and all the powerful sacred Buddhist texts. There are a lot of misinterpretations, human misinterpretations, not the Buddha, who enlightened in the oneness way, by the way. The oneness way is basically, there's 2 constructs within that. The old patterning of the oneness way is to kill the ego because the ego isn't real. People have misinterpreted those aforementioned, the prior mentioned sacred texts and the teachers that channeled or taught them. They have misinterpreted it by applying dualistic thought constructs by saying, well, ego is exclusive of truth. But there is no truth on this planet save love. People haven't even been able to apply oneness as a truth yet because it's a very dense dualistic environment with 4 different ways. And if we say oneness is the only way, and we don't understand that all 4 ways are included in that one way as a principle of truth and oneness, then that is a misinterpretation. So, when you consider the oneness archetype and way of ascension, if you unknowingly or unknowingly exclude your ego, your creative thoughts, your body as being separate from oneness, as being false, as being illusion, it doesn't matter. It's a level teaching. It doesn't matter that the thought and body are illusion. You can know that and simultaneously allow the ego, which creates and controls the mind, which then controls body. Mind also controls emotions. The mind is very powerful. We think, we feel, we speak, and do. 4 types of karmic effect. In collective human belief system, karma is master. Don't misinterpret karma. The true definition of karma is energy in motion. That's it. It could be energy from a thought, which then will create a belief, by the way. Thoughts and beliefs, same thing. Thoughts will create a belief eventually if you let it. Which then will create an emotion, karma of emotion, which then will create speaking, karma of speech, which then will manifest as karma of action, everything that you see and everything that thereby manifest. So in the way of oneness, in that way of ascension, there are 2 patterns within that. Awakened people will understand that they literally should not separate mind and body or ego from spirit, because spirit can embody. Embodiment is the ultimate way for the oneness patterning, the oneness archetype in ascension. Embodiment is the awakened way. Now, the unawakened way for that is, ACIMers, you're going to get mad at me. I'm going to try to do this without getting too judgmental, but reading the sacred text and applying it as being the one truth for everyone, inside and outside of yourself, when you say everything, including mind and body and all the things that come thereby, ego, whatever you call it, is illusion, therefore it's not helpful. Ego can be helpful or unhelpful. One of the most powerful ways to work within the oneness archetype of ascension is to decide what's helpful and utilize it. Decide what's unhelpful and do not allow that thought to create a belief, which creates an emotion, which creates your speech, and then thereby your actions for yourself and the effect. Your actions will affect others. Your thoughts, your emotions, whether you say them or not, still affect others. So that's pretty much the 2 sides of the oneness archetype. So we've talked about the warrior way, the oneness way. Let's talk about what I call the middle way, which the majority of people who understand my teachings and follow my works will get it here today. You like to talk about this. We just had a class about this. You call yourselves ground crew. So the ground crew, that's one way. Ground crew understand oneness. They understand that there will be times to be peaceful and completely in your oneness, and understand that the thoughts and the way that you act and react are all primarily unreal. Thoughts, emotion, ego, mind, body, speech, actions, all of it's unreal. And there will be times that you are playing within unreality and shining reality into it. So, mystery school students, you will understand this as the kingdom of God that is called Tifereth.